but it made me think, it's like, hey, yeah, there's actually some kind of wisdom in nature, you know, and following the seasons. And I feel like, is it telling us something? You know, like I always say naturally, you know, like berries, and you know, when, you know, blackberries in autumn or elderberries, you know, but maybe you need more antioxidants in your body, and nettles and cleavers and dandelion leaves in spring, you know, thinking actually maybe it's time to cleanse my body. I don't know, I feel like, is there some sort of like sequence
code?
Yeah, you know, I think this year I've really taken time to like not like be in myself a bit more, and like kind of, you know, it's quite easy to like preach and, you know, say a lot of stuff, but actually I want to take time to actually, you know, like, you know, I'm a big lover of nature and foraging and all that, and actually spend time actually doing that rather than, you know, talking about it, you know. 'Cause sometimes it feels that, you know, if I'm cooking and always putting all that energy into that, maybe I'm not doing the actual stuff I want to do out there, you know.
Yeah, well, we live in an age of also, and you can relate that to so many, I guess, different aspects of industries, or like the well-being industry is an industry. It's not like a state. And I think about people who just talk on podcasts and make a living from it. Am I actually doing any of it, or do I just know it? Am I doing it? Am I being it? And then I imagine some people get to a certain place where they go out and give talks. You might, you know, start giving talks on food and medicine, and then it could kind of envelope into that, doing that constantly, and then it's like, I'm just talking.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I often quite think it when, you know, because obviously when I cater retreats or anything like that, and, you know, even the people who are facilitating retreats, do they actually find time to actually do the stuff they preach? Or, you know, I might know, but God, it's health. You know, people ask me like, what's a good diet? What's good? You know, what's healthy? What herbs should I have? What, you know, what's, you know, should I exercise, do this and that, you know, and you get asked all these questions at, you know, at a retreat, thinking you have all the answers, and then actually when it gets down to it, you've spent all that time talking about it and not actually doing it yourself. And I guess that's, I really thought about that this year. Having my own like kind of slight health struggles myself, actually, even though, you know, always thinking, oh, I'm young, healthy, you know, I do all the right things, but, you know, actually thinking about it and breaking it down and realizing I need to give more time to that, rather than just, you know, especially in summer, especially with the career I do, a lot of events, a lot of festivals, weddings, all that kind of stuff, retreats, all in the summer. But yeah, taking time to, you know, do the events that I feel that are right by me and actually are beneficial to myself. And yeah, I think that's
So health, what is health? How would you define it for you?
Health, what, like as in my own health?
Because it's such a term that we use a lot, collectively, to describe such a variety of things. When people ask me like, what's the podcast? And I'm like, well, it's about health. Fully aware that everything's about health.
It's true.
Every aspect of our lives is geared towards maybe keeping us safe, or keeping us in connection, or you know, embodying the certain things we want, or love. Like, it's all related to your health, because we want to live.
You're right. I mean, I mean, you saying it then, it's a broad spectrum of stuff, isn't it? Health, you know, mental health, physical health.
Yeah, it's useful to break it down into intersections as we do, the pillars. And
I just wonder, is that the two pillars that people define health?
Mind, body, soul, I guess.
Yeah,
mind, body, spirit. If I'm asked, I definitely break it down into sleep, fundamental, food, which is, you know, nutrition, and then movement, breathing, and then community for sure, like social, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical needs. I mean, I think
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like with community, I mean, I think actually doing a lot of, doing some of these interviews and stuff, I definitely saw a massive reason why I do food is like pretty much because of community and finding that community. And maybe like, yeah, like I've often said, like, being at university and, maybe being a bit awkward and not, wanting to get to know people and really getting a massive like satisfaction from making people a meal and people really enjoying that. And also it's the other side as well, cooking with other people and learning new skills and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I feel like that's why I've never gone down like very like traditional chef route, because then, you're in the back of the house, you're not really there witnessing people that enjoyment. And I really get like a massive kick and buzz from that.
Was it clear that was possible, not to be so stuck in a kitchen and actually be involved? Like when you, I presume, made the choice to explore cooking for people and being involved, how did that envelope in your life?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I guess it's interesting. I mean, I think I've been quite lucky growing up near Glastonbury and going to festivals since a young age, and enjoying that. And I felt like I was quite lucky to kind of witness that. Oh, there are people selling food at these events and festivals. I mean, what a great life! They must be absolutely loving it, and they must, it must be such a like nice, easy lifestyle in some aspects. I found out through time it wasn't as easy as it looked, but it definitely has harboured that kind of community aspect that I've always kind of really craved. And I feel absolutely blessed to have like kind of, I guess, cultivated that, or use the word manifest, to find what I was looking for. Because I mean I did spend a little bit of time in back of house kitchens and stuff like that, and soon just realized it really wasn't for me. And I think sometimes those environments can be quite toxic, quite like masculine dominated, quite I don't know. And it's a very much you're repeating the same thing over and over again.
There's a lot of trauma in the kitchen.
Yeah, a lot.
Addiction.
Yeah,
behavior.
I mean, I didn't even go down that thing, but I've seen that, and people just not be, and you can see that people just taking it out on each other, just like, oh, I've had a bit of a bad day, or I'm frustrated because I'm here and I don't see a way out. I'm stuck in this job that I might have enjoyed 10 years ago, but I don't anymore. And so I really did like feel like it wasn't I mean, I'm still not like a very rich in financial terms person, but definitely rich in in spirit and in what I've achieved, but it took a lot of years of just really like trying to promote myself and doing jobs that maybe I necessarily didn't think I would do maybe now, and maybe was doing big catering jobs where you're feeding thousands of people at some festival you don't really feel aligns with your thing, but you have to do it. And I definitely feel like I've done like the hours, and I'm lucky now, but I'm talking to you and I'm like, actually I can find time to harbour my actual passions of being in nature and foraging and being more selective. But it wasn't always like that. And what
do you think one of the main reasons of that is, that you are in a position you're in? What do you think that you've been able to access or implement a bit more? Because you said luck, but there's definitely elements to intentionality, like the person that you are, like maybe your gifts, but maybe your talents. Like, what do you think has allowed you to really find this rich path of doing what you love and having the time and maybe breaking or creating like a new energy around cooking and what it means to be catering for people, because I see that with you, and it's not that common for someone to be finding like a new way of, you know, embodying what they, I don't know, it's hard to find the language to encapsulate all that you do or what you bring. So what do you think there is there that sets you kind of apart from?
I mean, I think being utterly obsessed, I think, is like one thing.
Sure.
Like I sometimes have to stop myself from talking about food or, you know, foraging or being oh God, like I'll go to a restaurant and I'll be analysing how they've done something or like that. So I definitely think that obsession. I definitely think in some part, even though beforehand I was doing food, I definitely think COVID in some aspect made me think, actually, I've got to take this a bit seriously. The opportunities that I had before, I was lucky to be working with a few events and festivals, and I felt like actually there's no festivals, there's no events, how am I going to make this work? And I just felt like I really need to knuckle down. I've always been a very social person, and I'd be that person who'd go out every single night, see some friends, hang out with them, could be just going to the pub, could be, going for a walk, whatever. I just, always really like being around people. But actually, in some ways, I think I was stuck out in Panama during COVID, and being stuck in a place where I couldn't really go out and do what I want, and kind of being governed by the laws in Panama at the time, it made me feel like, and just being around people also who were stuck there all the time, I felt like just that freedom being taken away from me made me think, hey, when I finally got back to the UK, I was like, I really got to, I know I love food, and I felt like everything's getting, I don't know if you had that feeling, but with COVID, I felt like everything's like all our rights, all our things that we love, enjoy, our community, whatever. And I was just like, hey, I've got to really just knuckle down and actually work harder and find really make this the thing that's important to me, I think.
Take us back to a time where you weren't so aware of what you were eating.
I think again, I'll base this upon my own health, but I just remember when I was probably about 23, 24, and I've always played football, always been quite like a active person, and we all probably do that in our 20s, and just I was smoking, I was drinking, and I'm not doing this into like a sob story or anything like that. I'm sure everyone has that time, but remember afterwards, after not playing football for a few months, going out and playing football and just being like turning and just turning with the ball, and like someone just right in front of you and just not being able to keep up with them, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. I'm like in the prime of my healthy body life, and I don't think I felt that happy in myself at that time. And I think suddenly realizing actually what I put into my body it does affect that, and that kind of definitely changed my whole outlook of how I did food. Beforehand I'd chuck loads of cheese and lots of oil, and even then I still really enjoyed making food, but it was more about, I guess, tasting good, and still that's important. But I think now I think about like, oh, actually maybe I can avoid that and have something maybe more of a healthy alternative. And I think that kind of that aspect of health definitely, and then again being aware with food, I think from that it kind of stemmed me to think about where's this food coming from, and these labels like organic, and what do they really mean? And I think it just made me look inwards than outwards about the food industry. And I think it was a weird point in my life thinking about it now, but it really kind of made me like look a bit, weird, but yeah, inside myself, but then made me look at a bigger picture of everything else.
Yeah, makes sense. Mary on the podcast, she talked about the things that immediately don't make you feel good aren't the things we need to worry about. It's the like things that actually don't have much of effect immediately on your health, but over time they accumulate. And I thought that was such a reframe, because I've always kind of like, oh, I'm intuitive, I'm just like feeling in when I feel bloated, when I feel like satiated. But actually, like, are we even aware, and how can we be more aware of what we're eating in terms of the feedback we're getting, and is it healthy? And it's not simple. It's not simple of how we might be eating something for a long time and we just don't have that feedback of if it's good for us or not.
Well, sometimes people think that's the normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't know any different.
I know.
So they don't know any different.
I was eating chicken Kievs and faggots and like fish and chips, and just that was the peas and gravy and standard upbringing of the 90s. And it wasn't until my dad had a heart attack that we changed and had fresh fish, and fresh fish was like radical. Wild. What did you grow up eating?
You know, actually, I grew up, to be honest, I grew up eating quite well, but I was actually quite a fussy eater growing up.
Yeah, I just wanted chips.
I wanted...
Fussy doesn't necessarily mean...
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, but like, you know, I see some kids nowadays...
You're particular for like decent food?
Yeah, but who want, kids nowadays who, you know, for example, like Bogdan's kid Noah, he's like eating everything that we're eating, and I always think, like, when I was, you know, his age, 8, 9 or 10, I'd just be eating like pasta and cheese or chips or whatever, and that was just like fine. And to be fair, my parents never really like forced me any differently. And I do sometimes think, was that maybe that's a good way of raising a child, like maybe just let them go with it and they'll find their way, you know, because I've also seen it the other way where, you know, people have like food phobias, don't they? Or be like, God, I don't want to eat broccoli, or mushrooms is a classic one, and it's because of like some kind of childhood trauma of like being forced to eat it. So
there's that like social needs to do with your health is so important. And if you're at school eating the healthiest, most nutritious, what would be strange perceived food, you might be outcast. Like it's literally that at school you're like, some people used to hide their food if it was like a different, and so there is a part to play with like.
You know what? I you're completely right. And actually thinking about that, actually I think there's a bit in Big Fat Greek Wedding, weird little thing, but I remember there's a girl there, you know, from Greek heritage, and she's eating like moussaka, and she's like, and someone's like, what are you eating? And she's like, moussaka, and she's like, moussaka. But you're right, that's like a very, and you know, I was actually brought up vegetarian, so quite often I probably had some things that were a little bit strange, or, you know, not the norm of, you know. But yeah, and I think you're right, actually.
Yeah. I think it's the modern day challenges of like being really intentional with certain things, food, or maybe that's education, and it's just like, when it's important to look at both angles of that, because you don't want to isolate or separate from like, there's that kind of overprotection. It's just radical social norms versus natural norms. Has meat ever been a thing in your diet?
You know what, it was when I was 17 years old. I think a girlfriend at the time, I went round their house and I forgot to tell them I was vegetarian, and I just ate the meat. And but I think I was brought up vegetarian, but I never had like in my head like ethics around it. It was just a thing I did. So I did have a few years where I ate meat and then went vegetarian and then went vegan, and very, very much I think it was just learning myself as well. Again, you know, I think, to be fair, again with my parents, I don't think they weren't very strict with any of it, and they just let me do my thing. And now vegan, and you know, very much after, you know, everyone's seen those videos about, you know, chicks being crushed, or, you know, animals, you know, throats being, you know, slit and everything like that. And I think actually seeing all that kind of stuff, just eventually did a come through and affected me and made me think, hey, I actually think this is what I want to do and want to be vegan, you know.
How do you meet that now? Oh, excuse the pun. How do you meet that in events and stuff? Do you ever cook meat for others? And
no,
it's a full on.
Always, yeah. I mean, I'm not. I like to always, because I will get it, but people will always like apologize to me. Like I'll be like, oh, it's not for you, this or whatever, and I'm like, like. Yeah,
apologize for what, bringing it near you.
Oh yeah, and I'm just like, you can do you know. In the end of the day, I'm doing what I think's good, and if you want to have a conversation around it, we can have a conversation around it. But I don't like to be put in a bracket of preachy vegan or whatever. People have, again, different reasons why they might eat meat, if it's religious, if it's, energetically, if it's health reasons, for example, there's something to be said, for example, some people aren't getting the bioavailability from vegetables or plants, but, for me, it works with my diet and how I feel. And also, I couldn't really see myself ever doing any harm to animals and don't want to be involved in that industry, but it's and also there's a lot of new, like anything in life, there's a lot of nuance to the whole subject, right?
Yeah, it's important to shine light on that, isn't it?
It's not just we can also get into debates. Is it more
I've had a fair
is it more sustainable to me, the avocado one's the classic one that I will always, what people will say, but I'd say
bananas is
other, this, even olive oil, and whatever. There's a lot, almonds, there's so many things, but that's why I guess it goes quite well into like another subject that I'm obviously passionate about, is like eating organic, eating seasonally, eating with the seasons, because I don't think there's many. Veganism does get often very much blanketed as like, oh yeah, you have, if you're vegan, you must be eating loads of processed, fake meats and avocados and lots of almond milk. But I don't feel like that's necessarily, true. I feel like you can do a more seasonal, organic, healthy vegan way. It's the same with if you eat meat, or if you a vegetarian, you could quite easily just eat margarita cheese pizzas every night, or eating KFC. So
it's true.
It is, but it doesn't get so it doesn't get, I feel
it is because of the fake meat push, and the agenda, which is how much can we bring to big food and at low cost, and it's that kind of agenda that's being pushed, and that's pushed me away. And it has, it's like it's been a factor of like, oh, I see what's happening here. Vegan food has been labelled as healthy without the context of all the processed stuff that's in it, and I think that's, people don't like being lied to, and it's not done a service to
plant-based, isn't it?
It's plant-based. Like just stick that on everything that hasn't got meat in it, and it's kind of like, I guess it's what we do to eggs, like the happy eggs or the happy hens or invent
farms that don't exist is a classic one, isn't it?
There's one in Aldi, it's hilarious. It's like it's basically there's something that says grass fed. It's grass fed, but there's no organic, there's no nothing, and that's the brand. It's called grass fed. And I'm just like, well, you've done it again. You're just trying to, and it's for meat burgers. It's like, it's nuts.
Yeah, I guess there should be a bit. I mean, it leads it to be, but it needs to be much more of like kind of laws and regulations around like terminology with that kind of in that industry. But I don't know if anyone is campaigning that. Maybe we should start.
Do you know which there are? I know I've got a friend who works for sports nutrition, and there's so many regulations around what you can and can't say. The subtitles of pretty much most products, but people do it, and then it takes a long time for them to be labelled from like on a governmental level of taking to court, all the processes it takes to like to enforce it, and by then they're running away with their brand, and they might change it or it might not. I don't know.
Maybe change the word a bit and then it goes through again. Because there was also McDonald's did 100% beef as another one, and it was just the brand name. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I get, because not that I'm.
People are going to project onto you.
Yeah, I feel like, and I almost feel like sometimes you feel like as soon as I sometimes say I'm vegan, I almost feel like there's maybe a perception made of me, and it almost feels like people naturally go in a defence.
Yeah, like you hate meat, and you hate meat eaters, and
but it's just
you're
like
going to stand above them and look down on them.
Yeah, and it's just like, but I mean, maybe that's maybe again if we're going in, maybe that's a perception that the media wants to see, because those vegans, they are like that, that's they will look down on you, and but I like to, I'd always be up for like talking about it and the reasons why I do it, but at the end of the day, people have their own reasons for what goes in their body.
So let's speak to local. How long's that been like a real focus of yours?
I think, again, I really during lockdown, I think the fact that actually we needed to look a bit more local, that and Brexit happening and stuff, maybe it was naturally, I don't know about was the reason why, but in my head that something shifted. And I think also, I don't know about you, but I really fell in love with the UK again during lockdown, because I was always abroad, going Central America or round Europe, Morocco, Spain, whatever, and I was actually living in Berlin before then as well. So I never really imagined really like settling or being in the UK, and I think that kind of maybe just kind of really notice nature a bit more. I was into foraging, from a young age, but it definitely was a bit in time where I kind of a little bit forgot about it, or it wasn't like the first thing on my agenda. But it made me think, it's like, hey, there's actually some kind of wisdom in nature, and following the seasons. And I feel like, is it telling us something? Like I always say naturally, like berries, and when blackberries in autumn or elderberries, but maybe you need more antioxidants in your body, and nettles and cleavers and dandelion leaves in spring, thinking actually maybe it's time to cleanse my body. I don't know, I feel like is there some sort of like sequence
code?
I feel like
there is. I think so. I definitely feel that.
So that, I think that really, again, was like a before that I was obviously I was looking into my body and health, but I think that kind of even changed me again, because then I might have been before someone who's like, let's go and buy a bunch of avocados, let's get all the the macas and whatever, cacao and all the all these things that are, superfoods that are coming into the mainstream society. But I think the realization is actually we've got herbs and plants that can do magical, amazing things to ourselves, I think.
Let's talk about some. What's your go-tos? What do you find most? What do you look for?
It's interesting because I always get as well as like, what's your favourite dish? But I think I definitely do feel like whatever. At the moment, really St. John's wort. St. John's wort, obviously amazing, anti-anxiety, depression, been used for a long time. And, I think even the pharmaceutical industry are even looking into it at the moment.
Okay.
That's out at the moment. Nettle seeds, maybe like,
why has no business been taking nettles and bringing them into the mainstream? Because I feel like it still kind of exists under, nettle tea, that's the extent of it really. There's no food manufacturers that have actually like started to mass produce and to kind of cultivate and bring into the mainstream. Is that me who's thinking that? I don't know.
I think you're right. I wonder if it is the fact that maybe it's like the whole kind of like hemp thing as well. It's like, oh, actually, there's this thing here that anyone can get. We can go into the forest and we can just take it and use it, and we don't have to spend loads of money on something else. I think probably powers above are like, well, we can't be letting people onto this, you know.
Sure.
I don't know if maybe that sounds a bit like a conspiracy theory, but maybe it's something like that, you know. Maybe it's something simple like that. Or what do you think?
I'm just thinking like entrepreneurs that are like, right, this is good. Everyone has an understanding now of like how good nettles are. And it didn't take much. It's like culture, isn't it? It's like what emerges over other things. And there's a lot of variables of why. Like, why did avocados just suddenly appear? And now we all look at them and think they're superfoods. And there's a story there as well that kind of overlaps, I think, in terms of food and culture and what we have perceptions towards. But they've always been known as like something to fear also. So maybe that's got something to do.
But interestingly, you know, I mean, I'm half Slovakian, but like a lot in Eastern Europe is something, you know, nettle soup and nettle tea, and you know, whipping people with nettles before saunas in places like Lithuania and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that. That maybe it's just something that we've maybe lost in our culture, because you know, I mean, like when I think of foraging is quite if you think in England, it's maybe quite like a white middle class thing to go out and do, but
yeah, it's luxury.
Yeah,
it feels, or like leisure.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh yeah, nice. You go there, you know, and you see everyone on Instagram doing it with their nice, pretty baskets, etc. But I like to think of it just going back to maybe like some more indigenous roots, that you know, this is how we used to do things, and definitely find an eye opening. You know, going out into Eastern Europe, and you'll see everyone, you know, like, you know, in the village just going out and you know singing to the elderflower or whatever, and it's just, I think, very much deeply like rooted in that society and that community, and I feel like somewhere along the way we kind of lost that.
Absolutely.
I guess industrialization and commercialization, but you know, even like in the Second World War, you know, kids used to get paid to go and pick rose hips for like vitamins, you know, for like vitamin C levels. And so yeah, you know, it's something that I think must have happened fairly recently.
I think we outsource our health, so any issues we've got, we just go to someone who's a specialist, and that's maybe a part of that. So you'll go to a doctor, you just say, right, tell me what I need to do. Is outsourcing your own innate capacity to look within and to look around you as like solutions. So that's a part of it, and then just the disconnection from land in itself. And I went to the spring today, to Anthony's Well.
Is that in?
It's just on the way Shepton Mallet.
Oh yeah, it's in. I know it. It's in.
Yeah.
It's in Dalton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's one near here as well. Well, no, one near Wales, below Wales, isn't
it? Cokes, yeah.
Yeah. That looked cool. I saw.
It's really good. It's really quite clean and like not much of a taste.
Yeah.
It's a good one actually.
St Anthony's Well is great because you can just get your head in.
It's gushing out, isn't it?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So looks so pure, and it says untreated water, and I'm like, good.
Yeah. No,
I don't know. Is that supposed to deter me or lure me, or I don't know.
Saving someone's back, maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, but also it's like a promotion. I think I want untreated water.
Yeah.
I just saw it in two ways.
Please put more hormones in mine.
So, I was talking about that. Yeah, I see everyone in the community, and they're pruning their plants, and they're gardening, and they're outside, and they're might be wiping their windows. But everyone's taking care of their property, and they're kind of like, people love to, don't they? They love to take care of their little section of the community. And I think, imagine like that's the story now. It's like, just take care of this patch, like my property, my fence, my boundary, and it's like what would we have used to do? Like what we'd probably had more conversations with what's outside of that. Like the community just in itself, like what we've lost in terms of no one. Like, I just relate to my parents and my upbringing and the people that I was around. They're not thinking any further than that, and it's the myth of our time, really, that we don't consider like the wider community as being like the ecosystem around us, like the river, we don't really care about the local river. No one cares because we're not dependent on it, and we're not dependent on the ecosystem. And it's a shame that that's like a collective thing that we've all
just accepted.
Yeah, and at what cost? I mean, it's emerging, and it's definitely when there's a need for it. We generally pick up on that. Yeah,
I guess it's also just, I think, just losing probably. I mean, we could go deep into it, but like maybe it's. I guess maybe religion. I mean, I guess people are still doing stuff on religion, but I guess people losing that whole concept of like paganism and celebrating nature and the seasons. We'd like completely. I mean, yeah, like you said, there's a bit of a resurgence recently of doing that, but I mean, I'd love to see in Forest Row. Do you know? I've only been to Medicine before, right?
Yeah.
And there's that.
I was with Benjamin Crystal at the weekend.
Oh, really nice.
He lives in Forest Row.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of community there. So
there is. He was like, you got to go. I was like, where even is this? Is it a street? Like, is it in London?
It's beautiful there. I mean, it's got
close to the airport and
Steiner School.
Yeah, Steiner School.
And a lot of like biodynamic farming and do you know much about biodynamic?
Not so much, no. I hear it all the time.
I mean, it's a biodynamic. I mean,
biodynamic yogurt in Sussex, which I had, was incredible.
I guess, I mean, in a very like rough term, I think biodynamic farming is just kind of organic food, but just like shows a bit more love, because obviously Tesco's and supermarkets can label organic, but how much love or how much are processed, is this crops rotation or that? And that's why I feel like if you're going to be putting energy and love into something, and I feel like with biodynamic farming they actually do that, there's more
of a conversation.
Yeah, it's more actually people involved, and there's actually a thought process there. They do stuff like bury yarrow or nettles or like seasonal plants at the time of year into the soil and make compost tea and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that is that's why I feel like biodynamic farming is quite special. And with organic farming, it could be it's almost like a very layman term, because how much you see some of the veg that comes out of them, the supermarket. It doesn't. If you put it right next to stuff that's been sprayed, it doesn't look really any different. No. Does it taste different? Does it feel different? I not really. I don't think.
Nothing from the supermarket tastes different in those categories. But when I go to a local farm and I have like fresh tomatoes, I've tasted the difference, and it still exists, and I'm like, yes, it's still here, because it just feels like, there's that story of like, it wasn't what it was 10 years, 20 years ago. It's like very different, and it's just selective and GMO. I don't know what isn't.
I think tomatoes is a good like thing, because like how do you think tomatoes were meant to be that sweet originally? I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like a lot of the reason why everyone, health problems and diabetes and all that is because partly, this is, I always like to say, if someone's asking you for like health advice, is definitely eat more bitter foods. I feel like having more of a bitter plants, having stuff like nettle, having dandelion leaves in your diet, because I think, bitter and, that kind of taste profile creates, bile, breaks down loads of stuff in your kidneys and liver, helps aid digestion. Also, bitter foods help absorb more minerals as well. And, because actually, I've had friends come up to me and be like, I take, my vitamin B12 and all this stuff, and, actually still don't feel any better. But sometimes it's just about bioavailability, and bitter foods do that. So eat, a good little tip is just to have more bitter foods in your diet.
So let's dive into bioavailability a little bit more for someone who just doesn't know what you're talking about.
I guess bioavailability is the ability to absorb the foods better, just because like I went off on a bit of a tangent then, sometimes when you feel like you're doing all the right things, and you feel like I'm eating all the right things, I'm doing all the exercise, doing all the kind of work I should be doing for my physical body health, and I'm still always ill, and I'm still always this. And sometimes it's just simple as just absorption. I mean, that's why that whole, and that's why some people eat meat, is because actually the animal does some of the absorption and the breakdown of the minerals that you can actually absorb them. But that's why having stuff like bitter food, having stuff like cider vinegar in the morning helps with like absorption of minerals. So if you helps aid digestion, so you can just absorb all that into your body and feel your best self, I guess.
So why wouldn't I be getting, what would be prohibiting the availability of the nutrients in things that I get versus you? Like, what's the factors to?
I mean, that's a
it's a sciencey question.
That's a large. I mean,
would it be worth getting like the microbiome checked? Would it be worth getting your bloods checked? Like,
I mean, definitely. I think. I mean, there's a lot more stuff out there that you can. There's Zoe, that thing that people do, and Thriver, where you can check your like mineral and vitamin count and everything like that, see all the levels.
So if you're like rich in one, or like there's just like
you're low in
incoherence with your mineral levels, or your amino acids and all of that, and your hormone levels. Your hormones could be prohibiting something. Right?
I mean, there's a lot. Or you could be too high or too low in something. You could have. Also, it might just be accumulation over time that you've been allergic to gluten, and that's maybe made you anemic or something like that, and that has stopped you absorbing some minerals, or something's blocking it. I mean, it's a large spectrum of stuff, right? With something. Also, it's something that works for someone doesn't always necessarily work. I mean, you probably know this. Get something like spirulina changed my life. That is, Absolutely. I feel so much better, clear-headed. Whatever. And then someone else makes me sick all the time. So it's
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when it's like centralized power, centralized systems. That then one information that works for a certain amount of people, that information gets spread so quickly, maybe to the globe. And everyone's like picking up on it as, oh, that's got so much traction, this works, kale, it's so healthy. And then it just kind of ripples out overnight. And then people in the community, they're not really, they're seeing that as a one thing fixes everything. Or like it works for a certain amount of people, then it's going to work for everyone. It's not definitely, I mean, there's Zach Bush talked about how he started giving kale smoothers to all of his patients, because it was like this unequivocal thing that was just like a superfood, but it's just everyone was kept getting ill. And it's like leaky gut. You just don't know. But it's not a complicated system, because it would be like this. It's like just we have to move away from that and have these conversations that aren't rooted in like dogma, or just like, I guess, anyone with like heavy beliefs or like rigid beliefs that think it's just like it is about this. Okay, let's talk about where you get your food. So what do you order from, like certain companies that you like have visited, like estates, or like what do you use in the UK?
I mean, I think
when you're doing an event or something,
I mean, much as possible, it is, if I'm doing an event and they are growing stuff on their land, and 42 acres, for example, is a good example. They grow stuff on their land.
Their food is so nutritious, or like so rich. It actually has sometimes the opposite effect. When I'm there for like 4 days, and it's so rich in like nutrition, it just feels like a lot for my system to take at that time. It's not used to it. There's a lot of fiber, and I'm just like, I have to kind of take it easy and just be aware of that. Wow. I think that's a common thing that's happening. People will come and their diet's so poor, then they get in this flood of like rich food, and it's just like it fucks them up.
Yeah, I guess. I could see that. I've never thought of it like that, but you're probably right, because I guess if your body's used to something, and then it's like what is this happening in my system? This thing's flowing now. These nutrients are coming into my body, and maybe your body, it's like feel like it's been under attack or something.
Yeah.
Maybe
there's also something around the template of the microbiome, and it really depends on. And sometimes I've always thought about like the growth of my microbiome and how it formed was subject to certain foods, food groups, etc. And it that was its foundation. It's like when and then I start introducing probiotics, and it's like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, it not necessarily good for me, because my gut was like grown up and formed with really like basic food, or like potatoes, or like whatever it might be. But there's something to that conversation, I think, as well.
And when you took those probiotics, did you had like a adverse reaction to it? Did you?
So I had my microbiome checked by my Viome, I think it's called in America. You stand up for the stool sample, it comes up with so much data, and it said to avoid bananas, tomatoes, kombucha, any probiotics.
Oh, interesting.
And I need to spend time to really go there. I'm going to have it done again. But it's like, oh, interesting, because you would just think of that as, of course, it's good for you. Good for your gut. And again, we're back to the label. It's like good for your gut. It's not always the case, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what was your microbiome count? Did it say it was low? Sorry. So did the microbiome count? Was it low? Was it?
It was relatively healthy.
Yeah,
but it did say to avoid these foods.
Interesting.
And there was so much data, I couldn't really make sense of it all. But it wasn't so like, they don't just say like what to do. They don't give you the how. It's just more like there's kind of
it's data.
Yeah, it's still our data. It was a while ago I did that. But yeah.
And did you ever notice when you were having stuff like kombucha and stuff that it would...
Had some 2 days ago. No, I don't really notice.
No.
Yeah, I just think it's not always about noticing. Like, I don't know. It's like there's a conversation there, I just think.
Yeah.
Because they talk about prebiotics, right? As like,
feed the good bacteria. Yeah. I mean, there's a herbalist thing where they do what I've heard as maybe being one of the most I'm not going to like advertise this, but like, as one of the...
Say something blunt and and it's a truth, and then we'll get loads of views. I
don't know if it's a truth, but I live with a herbalist, and one of the best things he has said that's been good for the gut is weed, seed, and feed. So is first start off by fasting, and just kind of resetting that system, because your body is in.
And what kind of fast? How many days?
I would say
I'm being Andrew Huberman, who's just like, okay, exactly how many days, how many hours, what moments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a herbalist, and I can't say, but I mean, from what I've gathered, probably like 2 or 3 days. Do obviously, if you're disclaimer, if you're pregnant, or if you're there's reasons why you shouldn't fast, for sure.
They're coming for you. If they're coming for you, if this doesn't work out for them.
But I would say, where was I now? Fast. So fast for a few days, and then take stuff like, I believe is star anise oil and maybe oregano oil. But kind of after that fast, it kind of resets your gut. And then take probiotics. So let's say you do that over, I think it's over a 2-week period. So I think you eat quite like a fairly like plain. You could go back to eating very quite plain food, nothing that's going to irritate the gut too much, though that's subjective as well. The weed. So you hopefully you've weeded your gut 2 weeks, and then you putting good stuff, the probiotics, into your body for 2 weeks, and then after that, prebiotics. So stuff like psyllium husk, or I don't know, flax seeds and stuff like that. and apparently that has, you know, been very beneficial in resetting someone's gut. And yeah, I don't know. Try it yourself.
What's worked for you the most in terms of like those timelines of like, I've really experimented with this and it's really worked?
I mean, I've done it, and I did really think it was like really like beneficial. Actually, yeah, I find as well, for me, I'm not some, you know, everyone says breakfast the most important meal. I actually am probably quite different and like to eat after like midday, 1 o'clock. I find that.
But isn't that like breakfast if it's your first meal?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I would call it, well, not a traditional breakfast.
Sure.
I guess, you know, a lot of people, you know, associate after 12 o'clock, maybe lunch, or 12 o'clock. But I don't know about you, but I find a period of break from food, especially, I mean, I have that challenge with when I'm working in the kitchen. You know, you're actually just always eating, so it's quite nice for me to have a time where I'm not processing it. You know.
Yeah, and there could be times where it's hard to just take a breath, down-regulate, and just be with your food. So maybe we could segue into that, which is also the state we need to be in to digest food. Because I could be just running around, not having any time for myself, and just like constantly, like I've introduced praying before food, and that just on a basic level is a signal to my body that I can come into a bit more of a, I guess, parasympathetic state, and just have a little bit of a moment of silence and just breath before I consume food, and then the more ethereal stuff can come in.
I think just finding a bit more ritual in consumption of food, you know, of fast food, and, you know, I mean, I'm sure we all do it, you know. I'm sure when you're driving, you might have like a sandwich. Sometimes I don't know if you're quite good, like regimented.
I won't snack.
Wow, that's really well done.
It's very rare. I mean, I do snack, but when I've, you know, all my environment is more mind, let's say, more intentional, obviously on events and stuff, like been 42 acres for 4 days, we've been having protein balls in between meals, and that's great. But yeah, if it's just me and I'm in control of that, then I don't need to. I'm just have a meal. I'd love to know your day as well. Like, what would like the best day look like for you if you've got full control of what you eat? Yeah.
Well, I mean, also fair play that you managed to do that, and I think that's great testament to yourself. And maybe that goes back to like what I was saying. It's just finding a bit more ritual and purpose in food, you know, and because I really, I mean, I think food really harbours, like I was saying, community, and I think a large purpose of that is being present with the food and present with, like, you know, the people around you, and having that kind of collective purpose of eating this meal and enjoying it and experiencing that together. But there's a lot of, you know, environmental distractions, and you know people on their I mean, I don't know about you, but being on your phone while eating, it's just like, why
okay, you got me there.
Do you do that?
I'm on a snap, but I definitely look at my phone whilst I eat.
Really? Yeah,
it's such an unconscious thing, because I'm there, I'm eating with one hand, I got my phone in the other, and I'm very aware that I'm just like, I'm scrolling and I'm eating, and I'm just like, I can sense and I witness like the disconnection from my food, and it's just like I have no break, and it's just like blah, 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 and I'm really enjoying it. Like, I am really enjoying it, because it just feels so good. I'm stimulated at the same time as eating food, so it's like a double whammy.
Is it just maybe comfort you're getting?
It's very comfortable.
It's comfort.
It's not necessarily good for me,
no.
But then there's comfortable, there's stimulation, which feels good, but what feels good is not what's good for you, as we know, but we've confused the two. It's convenience. It's convenient to feel great all the time, but like, that's just like, again, it's like, what foods feel great but aren't good for you.
That's interesting, because I was thinking, wow, you sounded like you got it down to a T. You're spending time, you're really like processing it, thanking the food, you know, having that prayer around it, and not snacking. And I was like, wow, this guy's he's got it down. And then I was like, oh yeah, but actually I'll be on my phone. Also, I'm not judging, because I'm also sometimes I try not to be on my phone, and hate it when I am, but obviously sometimes with work or whatever, it's maybe but then I sometimes I'll be on the tube in London, and you're going from place to place, and it's like, this is the only time I have to eat. But I think trying to be a bit more controlled and actually be present with the food, and and also like I said, I really like eating with someone else.
Yeah, obviously if I'm with someone else, I'm not doing it. It's being in the van a lot, and my phone's in the same room, and the accountability I've got is very minimal. Like, I'll be on my phone late at night, I'll be on my phone first thing. The lifestyle that I have is very fulfilling. I feel very healthy, so it's like a small thing, but my relationship with my phone has got radically worse since I've been living in the van, because I just don't have anywhere to put it. Usually I put it in another room, but it's just go to. So in the moments where I can't be conscious all the time, like I generally am, but it's like, it's just a thing, and I'm just like, whoop, 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 and there it is. So yeah, I know that's an area I need to work on.
I wonder, do you reckon it as well? It might make you, because I was hard, chatting about community. Do you reckon that makes you maybe feel somewhere in your psyche that you feel a bit more connected with everyone?
Yeah, it's fulfilling a void that I feel lonely. Yeah. So it's the loneliness that creeps in, and I want connection, and it does make me feel connected. So I get inspired when and it really is, I say, with my phone, but it's actually Instagram. It's actually social media. So okay, it's like further down that rabbit hole of like, what actually is, what's the thing, and what does the thing represent? 'Cause it's not the thing, it's a relationship with the thing. And then it's more introspection is needed I'm aware of it, I know it, but it's like, God, it just satiates that feeling. And it's just a time period of my life. I'm not so hard on myself, I don't judge myself so much, I don't like carry that weight around of like, God, because I've got lots of other things that I'm very content with.
No, I mean, it sounds like, no, I mean, I can relate, definitely being addicted sometimes to my phone, and feel like and feel in some weird way that you are more connected to the world out there, or your community of friends, by being online and being present. But probably actually, if you work out, you're actually probably doing the opposite. And
maybe I've replaced porn with just social media, and not in the same way, of course. I'm not masturbating on social media, but like, I used to watch porn a lot, and that would be a real thing, and now I'm like, it's just different variations, healthier versions of addiction. But yeah, I think integrity really means to be honest, and just to be full in your truth, and have like just an open conversation about that. Because I don't want people on the podcast to think, oh, he doesn't snack, he does this. And it's like, no, like, I'm fallible, I have flaws.
No. I mean, we all do. And I think that, I always think there's a big testament in someone if they can hold their hands up and admit they're wrong, or they've, done something bad, or, I feel like you're not really gaining anything by portraying like some sort of like perfect life. And I guess I mean, quite often I actually with foraging as well, is a good one. You see people always perfect baskets with all the mushrooms and everything they found, and you're like, God, when I've gone out, I've just found absolutely nothing. I've just been covered in mud, and it's been raining. And there's
a lot of room for that on Instagram. I think people would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. I feel like I saw a forager did that. It's like, look, this is what I found. Absolutely nothing. And I'm just like, fair play,
Instead of glamorizing the rain with beautiful music and like the like slow-mos, but then it's like, oh, I'm actually fucking exhausted. I've walked for so long.
Found nothing. Hungry, haven't found. And it's interesting that
there's room for both, because it also we need to you enjoy it, you're like really like connected when you do it. So there's of course, like, it needs to, and you want to promote it as like a real healthy thing because it's fulfilling you, and then it, to reach many audiences, because you want to like, you want to bring it to people, because it's, how much it served you. So it's like, here, look at this low-hanging fruit, literally, of like life. It's not about like spending so much money on experience when it's right here in front of you. So you want to bring that in. But then, the reality is
that most of the time, 1 out of 5 times it's like that. The other 4 times you're just, you haven't found anything, and it might have been raining, and you get. But I guess
it's a lifestyle.
I guess it's the. I think you put it very beautifully. Then I think it's you want people to get involved and harbour the same experience that you've had, and how nature's really I feel like when I see rose hips or whatever, I feel like there's something that I get with like some sort of like companionship and friendship with nature. It's like, oh, you're out again, nice to see you. And I have had like within like kind of community, within like medicine stuff, like people say, oh, you're not that spiritual, and I'm like,
really?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and maybe it's lingo I use, or maybe it's just.
Do they say that is like a?
Oh, maybe they think I'm a bit more of a, I don't know, lad. I don't know what I think, but
are they happy about that, or are they disappointed, or what's the
I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe it's a slight dig. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's. I don't. I think it's maybe just the way I use my terminology is different to people. Yeah. It's maybe not weaving and saying all these kind of buzzwords in that kind of way. What you see happens an awful lot, but I guess I'm maybe more about like trying to break it down to the easiest formula that people can understand it and anyone can understand it, rather than trying to explain what I mean by using that word or terminology. And don't get me wrong, there are probably some words I use that it's just habitual, that kind of comes in. But I mean, I really think it's weird because I actually think myself quite spiritual in the way that I feel like, especially being out in nature, and I don't know how you define spirituality. Again, I'm sure people define it differently.
Such a different term for so many people, I think.
But for me,
we're all spiritual. It's like we're having that experience. We're like life, giving life, like awareness of life coming through us. It's like, let's have a little think for a moment. No one knows what's going on. No one knows why we're here. No one knows what's beyond this. Yeah. It's like it's a pretty deep spiritual experience if you let yourself feel that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, for me, again, like many things, it's hard to define it. But for me, it's like something that is greater than yourself. Yeah. And I feel like my relationship with nature and with a wider community of people, believe in that is a greater purpose and something that's always been there and something that will always hopefully be there. That's how I kind of define spirituality. Something that's larger than myself, something that I almost can't comprehend. And so it's I don't know if I find it hurtful, but it's just interesting that some people have that perception of me. But
because it could be clothes, it could be the way you look, it could be the people you interact with, could be that I like football. Always wearing a hat. It's like, you're friends with this guy, you gotta be like woo woo and like not grounded.
I don't know. Maybe
that wasn't a dig at Bogdan. It's just a medicine hat, isn't it? It's like, which I wear.
I don't know. I think maybe it's because I like football. Maybe it's because I like other stuff that maybe isn't like. Maybe I'm just not a stereotype of what someone defines as a spiritual being. I don't know. Yeah,
I'll tell you about one of my experiences this week, which was an edge for me. And this comes up now and again. I'm like, I just can't soften in this moment to fully accept and embrace what's here. And it was, you might know her. I do not believe she's going to listen to this, but if you are, like, just take a breath first. I don't know. But there was a lady who came to talk to you, and she was, is it jousting? When you, like, perform acupuncture on the earth.
Oh, wow.
Have you heard of this?
I was thinking of, like, horse jousting.
Yeah, I know, I guess. So it's like, it's kind of, no. There is just jousting, I don't know. Jostics. So she has this like little fork, or it's shaped of an L, holds the shorter end, and kind of uses it to communicate with the land, trees, to find where the ley lines are, which are like banks of the river, as she was explaining. And I'm gonna invite her on the podcast actually, because when there's an edge for me, or wherever something triggers me, or that I'm in my head about something and I just can't fully get it, I'm like, let's fucking chat. Let's like, and that's not always worked in a way. Anyway, she's finding these ley lines in between these trees, and she's introducing to this practice, and she's got loads of twigs in a bag, and that might be offensive, twigs in a bag, because I'm sure I know there's more to that context.
There's more of a depth to it, yeah, right.
But if we can't laugh at twigs in a bag, then what are we really here for?
I think also, just a little side point, I think also sometimes people within those realms do lack a bit of sense of humour, right? And I think,
yeah, and that's a symptom of maybe something to look at.
Why, it's good. I think maybe
she would joke.
Maybe that I think actually thinking about it, maybe that's why people. I think it's maybe because I've maybe have a bit of a dark sense of humour, or maybe will take the piss out of things a bit more. But maybe that's something within myself showing an insecurity. But I'm sure looking into a bit of a deeper level. But I definitely think there is something about just laughing or not taking it too serious, and also like you said, twigs in a bag. I'm sure there's a more spiritual, deeper message, and there's something
we can all learn from it.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah.
However, it's also good to look at it as like, this might look like a twigs in the bag to you, but actually it's this. And then you might maybe you would then feel a bit more like actually. And once you expect, you but actually no, I feel that you've taken the piss out of it, but you have actually then maybe that kind of joke about it maybe would soften you to it.
For sure. That's a way in, isn't it? Like comedy.
Yeah.
Any heavy conversation is so much bigger and more, less confronting when you joke about it. That's a way into people's experiences through comedy. It's like comedy is literally the last area of our culture that's free speech, like the things you can say and just get away with. I think it's a reference point to where we're at as well, what you can and can't joke about. Anyway, so this lady was but they were actually, I did ask the question, I was like, is there any significance to the sticks? And she was like, yeah, one was pine, one's willow, and I think they're all willow, but they were like from different places, and it was significant. Anyway, she would navigate the ley lines of the land, and obviously we've got like the significant ley lines of this country that everyone seems to know, and then there's small ones, and they're banks of a river in between the energy flows. And she was then finding a point where this acupuncture point, just like a human, and you're just sensing with your own kind of own relationship to feedback of what felt right in that moment. And she'd ask the question of like, am I given permission to do this? And there would be a reciprocity internally for her. And then she'd find a point and then put a stick in it for a certain period of time, and then there were like different points, and then just relieve it. And it was a way of relieving like
energy, just
the land and the energy. And I'm certainly not pretending to know anything or disregard anything, but it was an edge for me, because I'm just like, I just can't comprehend that's, I guess, being really simple about it, I can't comprehend that's doing anything. But then I know at the same breath that I cannot judge or like say that I know, because 100%. Yeah, everything I know now I was wrong about at one point because I didn't know it. So it's like I fully accept and have time for it and can feel into it, but it's still an edge, and that's great because I'm pushing edges, and I'm like in spaces that are like, it's kind of uncomfortable, because one of the most uncomfortable things, if I was really being honest, was that everyone in my mind was so accepting of it, but there was some questions, and that's also inspiring. But it's also like, why?
Did you feel like you couldn't ask her a question at that?
I could, and I wanted it to be the right time.
And I guess you didn't want to. I guess it's interesting. I guess you.
It is. It's like it's rooted. Maybe rooted in like, I don't want anyone to take me for granted, or like there's this some energy there that's like trying to protect my level of tolerance, maybe. Like you don't want to be manipulated or taken for granted, and there's something to that that's like, I'm just like, you're not like, it's like, I guess it's like a brainwashing element to it. I don't know, because I've been in situations where I'm like, and obviously there's no one's malintent, it's not about that, but it's just my inherent, feeling of like, I have to protect myself here, because who knows where this is gonna, do you know what I mean?
I can totally relate to it. I can't think of a certain time or place, but I feel that, I guess it's a level of, maybe not to be disrespectful again, but you feel like, is this some waft? Is this actually got a deep meaning? Does she even believe what she's saying, or she just found something that's that she felt like she can inspire or manipulate people, or is she actually genuine and authentic to herself and actually does feel this energy?
Definitely the latter. I fully believe that. Like there is this like, and she's got a reputation, and she's holding a lot of space and doing loads of amazing work. So it's like, it's just important to acknowledge what's an edge for me, and there's like a spectrum of, it's not one way, and it's not like, I guess the extreme end of what we're really talking about is the like, nothing makes sense or I have time for unless it can be completely seen, witnessed, felt. But then feeling is subjective. It's like what I can see and what I can measure. And that's the like time that we live in, which is like, I think therefore I am, and it's part of that like Greek mythology of real like science and measurement of certain things. But we know there are things that we can perform experiments with that we can't measure, and we have no like, because it's like the computer screen, there's so much going on there, but we're making sense of it in a way that makes sense to us. So clearly there's like way more than we can perceive or even feel that's going on.
But it's good as, I think it's probably good to have that kind of edge and analyze it, rather than just absolutely accept something is said as pure fact, or even though that's in itself. But no, I think it's good. That's why you do your job. That's why you're interviewing people, because you want to find, is there greater depth to this, or is it something that or maybe it doesn't need to. Sometimes maybe it's just could be just a lovely activity that you're just feeling a bit more connected to nature, but can bring everyone together. It's like when people are singing to their plants, or talking to their, is that actually doing anything, or is that just quite like a nice way of spiritually getting more connected, even if it's not actually having any any difference to it? I don't know.
Value, but again it's productivity. It's like, what's productive, and then it challenges my own state and condition of like, oh no, it must be progressive, it must be productive, it must have value of some sort, or else it's just useless. And that's a part of, I think, the places that we go. It's like really important to question, what are we so conditioned towards? Maybe it's work culture, maybe it's like masculine, feminine, like maybe it's like, what do we need to make way for and get out the way of, because we're in the way. Clearly, like there's a lot of fucking chaos in the world, and a lot of it's predicated on the progressive, hypermasculine approach to everything, which is productivity, and it's just like kind of quantified, and it's dangerous really, because it's got us in this mess. So what's next for you? Like, what are you excited about? Where are you? Like you said, this summer I feel like more you've allowed time to yourself a bit more.
Like like I said, I want to spend more time, and we're interesting because we chatted about elders, and I'm hoping to spend some time with like some herbalists up in like Norfolk, and also hope for some trips to like Eastern Europe, and go out with like the babbers and the foragers out there, and and just kind of learn and resonate a bit more with like the elders and ancient culture. And I feel like just harness some of that knowledge, not just read it in books or stuff on Instagram or internet, and actually have like that experience of it all. So definitely spend a lot more time doing that, just living it, living that kind of that truth. And I think spending a lot, also getting a bit more connected to that side, being half Slovakian, getting more connected to that side of my family, those Eastern European roots, those Slovakian roots, and even with the food they do, and I feel like that's really how I feel that I want to be spending my time. Obviously doing stuff like medicine, and there are obviously other obviously doing medicine, and I feel medicine's very good at, I feel very like respected, and very much been let by like Zach and Jenna to be open to like create how I visualize and how I want food to be perceived. Let food be the medicine is kind of like a tagline that we use. And there's not many places that or festivals or events that let you do that. And I feel like very grateful for that.
And do you think cost is a big reason? Do you get that impression when people don't let you have full responsibility because they want to control the cost?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, unfortunately it does go down to money, but maybe that's because we should respect and treasure food more. I feel like places like Aldi doing a bag of carrots at 44p, how much is the farmer getting from that? And it's
probably minus.
Who knows?
It's mad, isn't it?
So I think
Zach Bush said, he said, if you're participating in the mainstream buying of food, you're participating in slavery, which was like, it's hard to comprehend, but like, I think that's quite real.
But sometimes you need a shock and tell like that to kind of be like, what? But also if you look at it, you are supporting local farmers. They're not like most of them aren't like some aristocracy up on like a high throne, are they? They're like
such a stereotypical attitude towards farmers. You'd have loved to be the earth. You'd have loved some things, because there's like Frome, there's a lot happening in Frome still, and like I don't know, I thought there was a wave and it kind of came back down, but it seems to be it just always feels like there's so much going on, like schemes and
what impactful stuff you think?
I feel but around this type of area as well. I guess I perceive that through 42 acres, which are connected with those.
No, I think you're right. I think that's why I get drawn. Obviously I live in London, but I get drawn back to this area. I do feel that there are people trying to make, that's weird, the whole phrase "make a difference," but make
change,
even in small waves, even if it's planting seeds. But that is. No, I think you're right, and that probably does lead me to like I think actually when we chatted at the Mount, I was saying to you, there's a bit of me as well, just thinking like, how can I with my food be more impactful than just making food? Obviously there's some impact because like I said, it's very community based, people enjoying food, me maybe trying to teach better eating habits, etc. But I guess maybe maybe it's a bit of an ego coming from myself, but like I feel like I would like maybe a little bit of a bigger or better purpose with it all. Is it, I don't know, is it that I'm handing out seeds, or every time someone, if I do a supper club, I'll plant a tree, or plant a bush at somewhere like Crops Not Shop or something like that. I don't know. I haven't quite fathomed what that would be, but it's...
You interact with a lot of people, and there's opportunity there. There's ways, creative ways to influence people's behaviour in a really good way. Like you're already influencing it with your food. And yeah, I'd agree. There's so much that can be done. Yeah, maybe it's like a cup, or like even when you sell people a cacao drink at a festival, it's like, can they take that cup home and plant it? And like that is an example of like how you can use that touch point to really
trickle away to... Yeah, I mean you're right, and I definitely do feel like medicine, for me, in the food side of things, has a bit of that platform, and we do try and always use, like, you know, local farmers. I mean, if you know someone or anyone out or listen to the podcast, finding someone who has just copious amounts of wildflower seeds, I'd love to be like just giving those out, you know, just at, you know, as you're ordering to get your meal for the day or whatever, just, you know, take some seeds, plant them somewhere, you know.
Menu which has seeds in it. That was this corporate company that came into 42 Acres last night. They had all these menus printed on paper with seeds in. And I've said that before. I think we did it at Primal Gathering when we wrote a letter at the end. They had seeds. And they were like, oh, don't throw them away. Like, you can plant these. And I was like, there's like a rewilding project happening here, and I'm sure they're going to be very particular on what seeds they plant here. Great, though. But I'm going to have to run that by before I start throwing them around in the bushes. But it was like, cool, great. But then I'm learning as I spend time with these more ecologists, let's say, that like even honeybees, it's like introducing more honeybees isn't actually doing anything good for the environment. Right. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Why don't I know that? And I'm not pretending to know so much. The more I know, the more I know, less I know. But it's like, okay, let's not just do things. Let's like
plan it.
Yeah, there's a part.
I mean, you're right, because I mean, I was even talking about planting trees. You know, I think I talked to some farmer about like, you know, oh, it'd be great to plant, and he's like, yeah, but it's not the right time of year, or like, you know. So yeah, but I mean, there has to be.
Yeah, just planting trees is just not. It's not as simple as that. No,
and you're right. You know, with the bees arguments, because honeybees are quite greedy. They take all the way of their nectar.
All the native bees are just
dying. There's 300. Yeah. I think there's 300 types of native bees, and honeybees are just greedy. They don't pollinate as much.
Chris Parks know this.
What?
I'm sure Chris Parks knows.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he'll give a lot of facts about it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, having this conversation with you, you know, I mean, I think there needs to be planning. You can't just, you know, even I mean, when you were talking about you can do that with the seeds with the paper, but even when you were saying that, I've seen that, and, you know, I've thought that, but is that just kind of greenwashing in itself? You know, is that just like, oh, it looks nice, doesn't it? You know, I mean, I'd love to have some business cards with that seed, but is that actually fundamentally doing any different? Is that just maybe making yourself look in a better eyes of everyone else? So I think, yeah, that's why, you know, I've said some of these ideas, but actually, I think I need to sit with it and think about what I can do from it all, you know. And you're right, you know, definitely using the network of people I know, I'm sure someone will come up with some sort of ideas like, well, have you thought about doing this, you know, with the food or whatever, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good, man, because you're stepping into that. Nothing stays the same, so it's like, what's next in a way? Of like using that platform.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. I guess that's probably leads to that. It's just like, yeah, obviously I've got somewhat of a platform, and, you know, a network of people, and especially, you know, partly because of medicine, and partly, you know, a lot of these bigger community events within that realm of people. You know, I'll quite often be the chef, or I'll know the chef, or will be, you know, I'm lucky to have a wonderful bunch of people I quite often work with. How however, just seeing what we can create and use that to, make somewhat of a difference to.
People trust you.
Yeah. Do they?
I think they do. I think people that serve you food that is, I don't want to get into just makes you feel good, but there's a different when you see someone who puts a lot into their food and that care, and you develop a relationship with them in a way through the food, and I think people they do trust you. So that's not true for everyone. It's like you have that reciprocity with people, so only and you care, and it's like it's good that people trust you, because I think you're trustworthy.
Thank you.
So it's like, what can we do with that? What can you do with that?
I guess that's I don't know if it's a dilemma. I don't think it's much of it.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, I guess maybe I guess maybe doing the same events and the same thing, and hopefully slightly different food, but it gets to a point where you feel like, what's next? I guess maybe we all do this, right? I'm sure you did it with the podcast. Like, where do I level up? Where do I? How can I improve this?
Thing that you got you here won't get you there.
Yeah,
What scares you?
What scares me? What scares me? Interesting. What scares me? I think not being able to have, I guess one, not to be like interesting.
Go on, say it.
Well, there's a few different angles to go into it. I guess I think not having this, the luxury of having like this status of being, the feeder within the group, because things can get taken away from you, or there's people's minds shift, or things change, and I'd hate to suddenly not be that person, because I take a lot of satisfaction from being that, seeing people's glee in their faces when they're enjoying my food. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you never know in life, do you? And I think that would fear me, and I guess with that is that also, I think losing that respect would be.
So what would lose that respect, do you think?
I don't know. What would lose that respect? It
can be simple.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Obviously, I one thing I'm always very meticulous about is allergens, but
that's a big one. Right?
Massively, because I'm always, make sure we have signs, make sure we have different boards and everything like that. But in an interesting way, with food, you can. It's not hard for someone to be killed if you do something wrong, or you mix something up, or and I do sometimes feel I hold a lot of responsibility, especially at something like medicine, where you might have like 60 people underneath you, and making sure they're all clued in to do exactly the same job and be as as meticulous as I am, making sure that you make sure you ask everyone, have they got allergy, make sure you're cleaning all your utensils, make sure you have a separate area, doing all that. I guess I guess it's
making a mistake.
I guess mistakes happen in life, but so it's not something I guess I actively fear, but I just realize life things can happen, or so it's I guess just making, being grateful, and hoping that people still honor me, and I still get that respect from people, and still have this platform. But I just, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a fear that I wake up in the middle of the night, but it's maybe it's my ego talking, making sure that it's I'm still in check, I'm still there.
I see the duality of caring a lot, but also knowing what you can bring, and not slipping into letting the ego take over. It's like the practice for you to keep your ego in check and reflect, and just to not let the responsibility, you could say power, get too much of a hold on you. And I see that in myself. It's like, okay, I have more responsibility, more of an audience. It's like, okay, how do I keep leveling up? How do I keep checking in on my blind spots? Because I have a bias towards certain things, and I get complacent at times. It's like when I'm holding in a men's retreat, I'm like, where am I not seeing this? And I think having a good team around you is really important to that.
Absolutely. And
so
people you trust.
That you can just know enough and trust enough to then say, you trust that they will call you in if you're out of integrity or not seeing certain things. So I think that's just came of something that is likely very important to you, to have friends that you trust that will speak to things when they need speaking to.
I mean, I think you're right. And definitely. I mean, I think you're totally right. I mean, it's, you are sometimes as only as, I mean, I have a lot of gratitude towards the people who, work with me, stand beside me, lift me up, and also, like you said, can put me down, or be like, hey, that wasn't cool, but you should know, I mean, for example, definitely, I mean, when you're serving lots of people, and you'll get grumbles like, didn't feel like I could have had a extra big portion, or this and that, and sometimes because you've been working 12-hour days, and you might snap or whatever, and to be held accountable by someone you work with, and to to accept it as well, is so. I definitely, but I'm so lucky over the years, I mean, that's, I mean, when I first started doing it, I would quite often just hire my mates, and I felt like then, it was a different environment, but now I definitely leveled up, and feels more professional, and feels like I have so much respect for everyone I work with, and I think they're amazing, and we've become quite a unit, and learned a lot from each other, not just in food, but life as well, and
beautiful, man.
Good
way to end it.
Thank you.
I think you bring a lot. How about a message to, I guess, all the medicine fans, to what to kind of, I don't know, anything you want to speak to around that?
What about medicine?
Because it's going to be your biggest event of the year.
Message to medicine people is, I think we've spent a lot more time this year, just sourcing stuff in a more ecological or more impactful way to benefit indigenous communities. I think the cacao this year, for example, my friend Jess, who's done a lot of work going out to places in Costa Rica or Colombia and meeting the tribes, and actually having a direct contact rather than going through a whole supply chain.
Sure.
So we've got some amazing ceremonial grade cacao, but it's really exciting, though it's definitely a lot more expensive. It feels right, and same with the coffee. exactly the same. The supply chain is like people in the UK, the coffees, and then the farmer. So it's great to see that. And even with, I mean, it's still a discussion to be had, but I think with the coffee cups this year, or the cups, rather than having the metal cups, don't hold me to this because it might be changed. We're still in discussion about it, but hopefully we're getting some that have been made out of recycled plastic that actually are more environmentally friendly than getting metal cups all the way from, I don't know, Alibaba in China, what a lot of festivals use. But we're actually, even though aesthetically you probably see them and you're like, oh, they look, but actually they're much more environmentally friendly. Apparently, once you've had used the cup 6 times, you've kind of leveled out your carbon footprint or something like that.
Interesting. So what about drinking from plastic?
I think they're BPA free and all that kind of stuff. But
tin. I think they were tin last year.
Yeah.
Like the tin, sometimes camping stuff, and I think that is like, you get a chip in it. And it's not. I
hold that. It's also just as we're still in discussion about that. But I'm on the side that we should go with the recycled plastic cups.
Yeah.
And also even with the bottles, I think we're more expensive bottles, but the bottles are, I think, 25% of the profits go into funding taking microplastics out of the ocean. And I guess all this kind of stuff that we've been discussing about, is just seeing, rather than greenwashing, like we were talking about, with trees or the cards with the seeds, can we actually, let's get past the greenwashing, actually where can we actually make a difference? Does it matter if aesthetically it doesn't fit this narrative?
Sure. And challenging a narrative, knowing that having recycled plastic is not going to look particularly, and there's going to be so many people thinking about it, but and you've got evidence to back that it's the right thing, and just kind of letting that be. It's interesting.
Hopefully I can confirm that's right.
We'll confirm it.
We'll go to medicine and actually
I think
it's the same old
I think it's going to be in a week, so I'm going to put this out a week before medicine.
Okay, so I'll let you know about the cups. Let me know. I'll let you know about the cups. Otherwise, it'll be a bit awkward. That we don't have.
But I think is there anything you can take from this conversation, which I love, and has been my takeaway. It's just like holding truths and knowing that I'm just doing my best, and it's going to come with people's projections, triggers, or whatever they want to bring in their baggage of how they see it. And you might be wrong about something, and that's okay too. It's like, we need more of that. We don't need more data and statistics about how to be. And it's just like, this is what I know now. Do my best.
Yeah.
Beautiful man. Do you want to leave with anything? We good?
I think we're all good. I think we're good, mate.